It starts innocently. A decision needs to be made. A conversation replays in your mind. A future scenario demands your attention. So you think about it, naturally, reasonably, and then you think about it again and again. And somewhere between the third and the 30th repetition, something has shifted, but you cannot identify exactly when productive thinking became something else entirely, something heavier, something that follows you into sleep and greets you before morning. This is not a thinking problem. This is a neurological trap, and your brain built it with the best intentions. To understand why the overthinking cycle is so difficult to escape, you must first understand what your brain is actually doing when it enters the loop. The human brain is fundamentally a prediction machine. Its primary biological function, above creativity, above language, above every complex capability we celebrate, is survival through anticipation. It is wired to scan for threats, model outcomes, and prepare responses before danger arrives. For most of human history, this mechanism saved lives. But the modern world handed this ancient system a new kind of problem: uncertainty without immediate physical resolution, career decisions, relationship dynamics, social judgments, financial futures. These are threats the brain recognizes but cannot outrun, outfight, or immediately resolve. So it does the only thing it knows how to do. It keeps thinking. It runs the simulation one more time, and one more time after that. Here is where the addiction takes root. Neuroscience has identified what researchers call the brain's default mode network, a system that activates specifically when you are not focused on external tasks. This is the network responsible for self-referential thought, mental time travel, and hypothetical scenario building. In healthy function, it is brilliant. It is where creativity and self-awareness live. But in an anxious, uncertainty-flooded mind, this same network becomes an engine with no off switch, generating thought after thought, scenario after scenario, with no arrival point and no resolution. What makes this particularly dangerous is the feeling it produces. Overthinking feels like intelligence. It feels like diligence. Every new angle you analyze, every worst-case scenario you prepare for, every detail you examine produces a subtle neurological reward, a whisper of dopamine that signals you are doing something. You are being responsible. You are staying ahead of the problem. The brain cannot distinguish between genuine problem-solving and compulsive rumination. Both feel like work. Only one of them actually is. And so the loop self-reinforces. Analysis produces the sensation of progress. The sensation of progress justifies more analysis. The cycle becomes identity. You begin to call it thoroughness, conscientiousness, depth. You wear the exhaustion of it like a badge, never recognizing that the badge is a symptom. The cruelest dimension of this addiction is its core, deception. It presents itself as the solution to the very anxiety it is generating. You are not thinking your way to clarity. You are thinking your way around it, in circles, at high speed, calling the motion momentum. There is a particular kind of exhaustion that no amount of sleep fixes. You wake up tired, not because your body worked too hard, but because your mind never stopped. It processed through the night. It rehearsed conversations that have not happened. It autopsied decisions that cannot be changed. It constructed elaborate architectures of hypothetical disaster and then inspected every room. This is not thinking. This is mental hostage-taking. And the most disturbing part is that you are simultaneously the hostage and the one holding the lock. Most advice about overthinking begins and ends at awareness. Notice your thoughts. Label them. Breathe. And while awareness is a necessary first step, it is dangerously incomplete as a final solution. Because here is the truth that the self-help world consistently softens. You cannot think your way out of a thinking addiction. Telling an overthinker to simply observe their thoughts is like handing someone drowning a book about water. The information is accurate. The timing is catastrophic. What actually breaks the cycle operates on an entirely different level, and it begins with understanding what overthinking is really protecting. Beneath every loop, beneath every replayed conversation and catastrophized future, there is a single driving force: the terror of an uncontrolled outcome. Overthinking is not really about thinking. It is about control. The mind believes, with absolute conviction, that if it just analyzes long enough, prepares thoroughly enough, anticipates completely enough, it can eliminate uncertainty. It can manufacture a guarantee. What it never acknowledges is the devastating irony at the center of this belief. The pursuit of certainty through thought is itself the source of the uncertainty it is trying to escape. You cannot think your way to a guaranteed outcome. You never could. But the brain does not accept this gracefully, so it runs the loop again. This is where the real work begins. Not in quieting the mind, but in redirecting it. The neurological circuit breaker for compulsive rumination is not meditation alone, not journaling alone, not positive reframing alone. It is deliberate, physical, immediate action. However, small. When the body moves with intention, the brain's prediction network is interrupted. It shifts from simulation mode into navigation mode, from generating hypothetical futures to processing an actual present. Action does not eliminate uncertainty. It does something more powerful. It makes uncertainty irrelevant by replacing it with momentum. Here is the dimension of this that most people never reach. Overthinking, at its deepest level, is an identity crisis wearing the costume of intelligence. When analysis becomes your primary response to every challenge, it eventually stops being a tool and becomes a personality. You begin to define yourself through your complexity, through how deeply you feel things, how thoroughly you examine them, how seriously you take every variable. And dismantling the overthinking habit then requires something more confronting than a technique. It requires asking yourself a question that has no comfortable answer. Who are you without the loop? Because the mind that has spent years inside the cycle has forgotten what it feels like to simply decide and move. To trust a choice without dissecting it for 3 days afterward. To let an outcome arrive without pre-living every version of it in advance. Reclaiming that capacity is not a cognitive exercise. It is an act of radical self-trust. The belief that you are equipped to handle whatever arrives, without needing to have already survived it inside your head first. Your brain was not built to live inside problems. It was built to move through them. The thought that keeps returning at 2 a.m. is not profound wisdom demanding your attention. It is a habit, a well-worn neurological groove that has mistaken repetition for relevance. And like every habit, it was built through consistent choices, which means it can be dismantled the same way, one redirected moment at a time, one trusted decision at a time, one step taken before the mind finishes building the case against it. Silence the loop, not by force, but by replacing it with something the brain cannot argue with: movement, decision, action, life, happening in real time, not in rehearsal. The thought you keep returning to, the one that has replayed more times than you can count, is it actually helping you solve something? Or has it just become the most familiar place your mind knows how to go? Write it in the comments. Not the thought itself, but honestly answer this. How long have you been thinking about it? And what would change if you stopped? Because sometimes the most dangerous realization is not what you have been overthinking. It is how long you have been calling it necessary.